is about placemaking. Let me tell you this, on Sunday morning it was, David McAdam was on my radio show, the Business Breakfast Show, talking about this event and the issues that were going to be discussed. And one of my colleagues asked him, if you could sum up in one word what's going to be the theme for the event this year. And he comes on every year to talk about it. He actually didn't use that word reinvention. He did it at another stage. But if there's one word, it's placemaking. That, he said, really summed up one of the key talking points and key things that everyone's discussing this year at RECON. And our final presentation is on the benefits of integrating placemaking into shopping centres. Our speaker, and we've already heard from him at this conference a couple of times before, has worked with more than 1,000 cities, shopping centres and places around the world over the past 25 years on placemaking. He's played a key role in helping his home city, Melbourne, become the world's most livable city. I'm sure we read those rankings with envy. He's also spent time as general manager of Chadstone Shopping Centre, one of the most successful malls in that part of the world. So he has a lot of experience. He's perhaps best known as the managing director of Village Well, founded in the early 1990s in Melbourne, in Australia, his hometown, and in many ways being one of the founding fathers, if not the founding father, of the concept of placemaking. In the next half an hour or so, we're going to gain an insight into retail placemaking in particular, and how it's used to transform shopping malls into high-performing destinations. Please join me in welcoming our final speaker at RECON 2017, the Managing Director of Village Well, Gilbert Rochecouste. Join us, please.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Wonderful. It's great to be back, folks. Wonderful to be in this region. I'm going to take you on that extra little bit of journey. Who was here on Sunday? Hands up. That's the Village Well team, so well done. And what I'd like to take you on a journey about is take all the speakers together and really take it to that place of shopping centres becoming town centres, yeah? How do we really create our places as places that people love? And that's the journey and the story that I want to tell. But let's just start with some energy. What we did on Sunday, especially my friends who are in the room. Look, it's already up. Everybody stand up. Wonderful. He knew exactly. Come on, stand up, everyone. We're going to move some energy. We're going to bring some passion into retail. That's what retail's about. Activating all the people in the back, stand up. That's it. Wonderful. We're going to move some energy. We've been sitting all morning. This is what we want to do to our customers. Participate, connect. And we talked about play and pleasure. So I'm just going to do this. If you can't do it, it's okay as well. Just copy me. I'm from Mauritius, 136 first cousins. We play and connect and breed and we have fun. That's an amazing story in itself. So move your hands and your legs like that. Beautiful. That's it. Beautiful. You're not going to do anything touchy-feely. And then you're going to repeat after me. I'll do one and then you do it 3 times with a lot of passion, okay? Chugga, chugga, chugga. Chew, chew. Chugga, chugga, chugga. Chew, chew, chew. Let's go. Everyone. 1, 2, 3. Chugga, chugga, chugga. Chew, chew. Chugga, chugga, chugga. Chew, chew, chew. Chugga, chugga, chugga. Well done. Hands. Well done. I know I probably crossed a few cultural boundaries there, so I apologise. and hopefully I do get some work in the area. But I think you've got to live your passion, yeah? And I'm passionate about people and place. And that's why I left in some ways. You know, when I worked in shopping centres for 6 years, the biggest department stores in the Southern Hemisphere, and the general manager of the top 10 mall in the world, Chadstone, which has been talking about by our friends from RTKL. But really what I want to talk to you about today is to take you on this journey about the how-tos, what I call, it took me 25 years to get this work, after working mostly with cities. But it's the learnings from cities that we need to put into shopping centres, yeah? It's the sacred spaces of these places why people go to. Remember, when we asked 1,000 people their favourite places around the world, 95% of those people said all the places that they loved are pre-1945. Think about that. I mentioned that last time, pre-1945. It's extraordinary. We need to make our centres lovable, yeah? We need to put them back on the map. So I think that's what the challenge is now, especially, and can I just say, placemaking is about creating meaningful and connected places, but also it's about future-proofing your assets, yeah? When downturns come, when people love a place and they come to a place, they are loyal to a place. And it's called the power of free. There's free things to do. They feel loyal. They feel connected. They're the key things that I want to share with you in a very short half hour. And I want to thank David for inviting me here, and my elders, Wally and David Bosley is in the room, and others also, and great people, and especially Mamuna, who's I've been mentoring for a couple of years. So she's my mini-me, the placemaking person of the region, which is fantastic. So let's get going. 25 years, 1,000 cities. We've learned a lot, but what we've learned is how do we bring commerce, the software and hardware together? That's the trick. And I think we've got to the point now where we're over-shopped, over-retailed, and we're finding in Australia in particular, the most enlightened developers are putting placemaking from the Lend Leases and even Westfield now, and GPTs, these are our centres in Australia, and AMPs are moving towards a very dynamic place and role in creating places, not spaces. This is the key thing, from moving from beige to complex town centres. So the transformation of Melbourne has been an extraordinary journey. Why has Melbourne become the world's most livable city 7 years in a row? And the learnings from this extraordinary city is around culture, community, sense of place, the night economy. It was voted one of the world's worst 5 cities back in 1982, a donut city. So the transformation has been incredible. It now has the laneways, which is on the left. Can you pick me out there on the left? I can't help myself. This is where our office was, but importantly, those 2 projects, the laneways and Fed Square, great public anchors, have now driven the retail sales. If you've got great public anchors and public institutions and cultural institutions, your retail can actually be measured up, and we've measured this by about 15 to 20% higher, because they create sticky places. So that's the key thing that I want to leave with you here. And the key thing around that boutique retail and global anchors joining together, and that's the great thing. So one of the things I want to talk about, we've talked about lovable places, people but also I want to talk about sticky places, places that you want to hang around with and linger longer. When you linger longer, people spend more, but you want to do it in an authentic way. That's the key thing. So placemaking is the glue that glues people together and binds people together, that creates a destination. And importantly, they're the directions that we want to head to. So what we say in placemaking, and this is the big challenge in development and shopping centres, if you start with people and place, you get people and place. If you just start with design, you'll just get design. We can get bedazzled by design, but we need to actually understand that we need to design for people first. Great small public spaces, laneways. Our malls should not be malls. They should act like streets and laneways. That's very important. And in our work, we obviously we've worked on hundreds of developments, but the key thing is each key area, from the business case, the value proposition, the master planning, the design, the preliminary investment proposal, the DA, the delivery, the operation, and growing the place. All of these key components have a placemaking component. There's about 200 checklists of key things that you have to do. I don't have time to show you that checklist, but we will go there in the 2-day masterclass in Oman in March with Maimuna. So that's the key element, that placemaking needs to be embedded from the beginning. You have to start not with a design vision or a retail vision, but start with a place vision, a place story. That story should never, never be taken away. You know, what happens? Shopping centres, we've worked with 300 shopping centres, they get retrofitted every 7 to 10 years, yeah? Hundreds of millions of dollars. What we found with the placemaking, the shopping centres, and I'll show you a couple of case studies that have kept with placemaking, there's no retrofit. They just evolve and get better like great cities and towns. Now that's future-proofing your centres, folks. That's where you get people being attracted to and lingering longer. So the important thing is creating an integrated retail and development model, not just through physical design, leasing, ESD, product mix and programming, but how do they all connect together and are driven by a place story and a place vision and a place-making strategy. It's a much more complex process and a road less travelled, but once you do that, you start to get a level of pride and connection, but also you get happy retailers. That's what we found. And I think that's the missing link. The best placemakers in the world are our retailers in our malls. They should be the ones who be welcoming everyone, telling stories, understanding the place, and the importance of planning for people first, which I've spoken about, and tapping into the community's wisdom. We don't do that very well in the property retail industry. Very little, probably only, we do it probably with only 5% of the time. The other 95%, we get demographic research, psychographic research. But if we dug deeper and started to create a sense of authentic engagement and stakeholder engagement by our customers and our retailers, that's the key. And the importance of celebrating local community, those small interventions and building local pride, and the importance of having a co-design process for development. I'll stop at this slide for 1 minute. This is in, and I showed this the other day, in Muscat. What I want to share with you is that the importance of tapping into social entrepreneurs, tapping into artists, tapping into the community leaders, bring them in the room and start co-designing. This is a radical concept. Before you design anything, let the community start designing the mall and the place. What you'll find, you'll get the 10% X factor. That's what we're looking for. The designers and architects and leasing agents will never give the full rein, but it's only through the wisdom of our community leaders, designers and social entrepreneurs. We once put the top 20 retailers who would never go into a mall to help design a mall. 12 of them signed up for the lease in Melbourne Central, which is extraordinary. They would never go into a mall. Why? Because we tapped into their wisdom and they've said, if you deliver this, we'll definitely go into this centre because you'll support us and we'll become an authentic part of your leasing story, but also a point of difference. Importance of public realm as an anchor, which I've just spoken before. We've just lost the art of that. Again, very challenging in the Middle East because if we can get 10% or 15% of our GLA externally delivered, but you need a hybrid framework around that. So during heat waves and different temperature modes, you can cover the malls or uncover them. And the importance of places to walk, wheel and sit. The most walkable places in the world are some of the most highest performing retail centres in the world. So that intimate human scale is absolutely critical. And beauty attracts. The Instagram moment of art and beauty, of beautiful sculptures, but done by the community. Some of this is the most important thing of it, because what we find is that 20%, it can increase your retail spend when you have extraordinary beautiful spaces done authentically by up to 15%, because people will linger longer in beautiful spaces. You see the piazzas in Europe and everywhere else. And the importance of small independent retail, social entrepreneurs with global anchors, that's the key. We've lost. We used to have about, in Australia, back in the 80s, 15% to 20% of local independent unique traders. That's only 2% now. We're trying to increase that because everything's the same. It's the same list of retailers from a leasing agent that goes around the world. I call it the list of 2,000. It's the same retailers in the same malls and the same beige architecture. So we need to shift that thinking because we can't compete around that concept. Very important. And building on what's working well. What are the things in Riyadh or Dubai or Muscat that's already working for the community, and build on that? Very important. And offer unique and diverse experience and small wins. On the top left there, closing a street. We've done hundreds of this in Australia and in parts of the world and in America, where it's called tactical urbanism, and the importance of creating small, what I call interventions and experimentations, and suddenly you get pop-ups, and these pop-ups become permanent retailers that are extraordinary and sticky. The key number here is to get 6 of them together. Yeah, as a cluster, these unique operators, then you start to get an anchor in itself. And the importance of weaving local stories and diversity of programming, all the software side that we usually forget. And keeping it fun, we talked about that. Pleasure is the greatest human motivator in place. It draws people, it makes a place much stickier than what you ever think. If you can get the pleasure principle right, where people can sit and again, have the power of free. When we did a centre for Lend-Lease, the biggest urban regeneration company in the world now, with about $50 billion in urban regeneration projects, in Darling Harbour we created with them a wonderful free park that gets 50,000 kids in a week. Yeah, it's free. It's the most loved place in Sydney for children. If you get women, children and older people in a place and make it sticky, your retail sales will definitely go up, I can guarantee you, because they're your three demographics together. And the importance of day-night activity, Instagram moments during the night markets. When we created the night markets in Melbourne, which is now one of the biggest night markets in the world, 60,000 people in 4 hours. The importance of that became a sticky place that regenerated a whole part of the city. And moments of surprise, wonder and discovery. We've lost the art of that in our malls. We need to make our malls more laneways-like, street-like, and create art and interaction with our community. The softening and greening, the reusing of materials. Sustainability is moving to regenerative malls, malls that are making energy, malls that are recycling, closing their loops. This will happen, folks. It's just a matter of who's doing it first. Some of the leading retailers are already there and leading developers. So that embedded sustainable practice are really the foundation of the future. So that placemaking process in Oman was very powerful because what we did was looked at these local trends, looked at the local story, understand the place, create a place essence. That's the spirit of your development and essence and the 5 or 10 principles that will drive that over decades. That should never change because if you're really connecting to your deeper stakeholders and retailers, then you're getting that shared vision around an integrated process of design, leasing, culture, community, curation, management, governance, landscape, cultural development. Yeah, you see where I'm going to. It all connects. So we need our cleaners, our security guards, the hundreds of people who work in our malls to become storytellers, yeah? To become welcomers, to become placemakers. But we need the training, and we've trained up a couple of thousand of these people, because what we want is a loved, vibrant place. So those slides I showed you before is really important. Getting the creative spark is the key element. We want the 3 or 4 key ideas that's come from the community that will be driven by the community. That's the essence of authenticity. We've lost authenticity in our malls, truly. We need to reclaim authentic environments. Authenticity has been bandied about a lot, but it's a very hard thing to get. So where are we now? Very quickly. We're moving from business as usual, and that's a challenging slide. Would you say business as usual is edutainment, experience retail, entertainment and leisure, fashion, convenience? Well, we're all competing in that red ocean now. We all want the same thing. So that red ocean will just be full of blood, and you'll be cutting each other to pieces. The ones who start to rethink their developments for the long term will be building these town centres and creating a bunch of what I call very strong loyal advocates to their shopping centres, their town centres, creating that sense of meaning. Remember what Tom said yesterday, which was the most profound thing I heard over this conference. Millennials who will be your major shopper in the next 5 to 10 years will be driven by buying experiences, yeah? There was a few things, but these are the 2 that really hit me. Buying experiences, that's on their bucket list. They don't want products, or they want to get their experiences, and they want the social good. Think about that. How do you combine in a framework of a commercial environment, experiences and the social good? Placemaking creates your platform for that. It creates your, what I call community benefits or cultural benefits. It will drive your retail. I come from a very high-level commercial background, and that's what really drives me. How do we get that real connection to the both? Increased visitation, linger longer, but local distinctiveness. Could you really say your centre has a real sense of local distinctiveness? Can people come here and feel really proud to say this is our centre? It tells the story of our place, the region, or is it just an anywhere place? Is it placeless? Is it a beige place? The importance of transition is underway. So really, I'm talking very fast here, but important importantly, I just want to leave you this component, and you know this transition and the transformation. And what Amazon said a month ago in, I think, a Times magazine, that said the only thing that will challenge our model is that we can't compete against great experiences, authenticity, yeah? People will always go back to where places they love and find meaning, and that's where the millennials will drive it. So we're moving from cars and I'm pro cars. You need cars, you need transport. Put them on the side, but create these people places. You know, these places that can be given that sense of cover, that sense of public space, that sense of meaning. So we don't have these big boxes that just pushes people out, but takes them inside the mall. I talk about the 90-10 quotient. 90% internalized and 10%, externalized. How do you get those two working together? Some retailers are really pushing 20 to 30, 40% external, and they're really pushing the envelope. But in this environment, it will be much challenging, from beige to green to grit to laneways. So very important. How do we move from this environment from enclosed to open? And I'm passionate about the hybrid. We've worked on a few hybrid centres where we can enclose the malls, and open them up to nature. That's the key. How do you create? And that's where I think you can push the retail sales, both in the months where you can go outside and then when it's too extreme in weather. From globalized to localized. That's the model. I think we've just gone too far globalized, but how do you bring in the 10% or the 5% of local interesting operators? Mostly F&B. I think F&B is the glue. F&B has just taken over in terms of return per square foot in Australia, in Westfield centres. F&B makes more money than fashion for the first time this year for one of the world's biggest shopping centres. Why? Because it's the glue. We break bread together. So for them, the experiences and authenticity and bringing mum and dads back, very hard to work with, mum and pop retailers. But if you can work with them and get one or two or three, fantastic. So let's think outside the square for a moment around this placemaking model. And I think this is what we're talking about, reinvention. And, things are getting better and better, worse and worse, faster and faster. Would everyone agree? Globally. It's getting better and better, amazing things happening on the planet, great ideas. It's getting worse and worse. I don't want to talk about climate change or economic corrections or wars or whatever, but it's the thing that I'm interested in, the speed, isn't it? It's getting faster and faster. Every second year, it's doubling. What does that mean for us? The only component, I think, that makes sense for people is place, They find a connection to place. Get the commercial elements right. Shifting the culture from shopping centres to town centres. So shifting that culture is really important. I just want to moment that we've worked with Lendlease and GPT and lots of other AMP at the moment, but ISPT, who own about $16 billion, some of you know here, have been working with them for 2 years, shifting their whole management culture, their whole development team, leasing team, operations team, centre management team, the JLLs, that work with them, to really embed the culture as a place-led development retail company. I think this is a world first. This is going to put them on the map, but hopefully increase their return on investment. This is really critical to education and changing of cultures. This is where the world's going, and I think this is important for all of you to hear. And we're halfway through this process. It's going to take some years. It's been driven by the CEO and the board, but this is where we're going, because every project now has a placemaking budget. It has to be place-led and created a placemaking vision and integrated. So that's a big battlefield, because we've got architects in the room screaming and saying, we don't want to do this. We've got leasing agents on the other side saying, what the hell is this about? We've got investment managers going, we don't want to know about placemaking, but the CEO and the board saying, bad luck. This is where we're going, and this is how we're going to lead the market. Hallelujah. Anyway, I used to have lots of hair, but I'm losing my hair. It's a bit of stress trying to get there. But, we take them out to see great places. Why great places work? Here they are dancing. It's not for everyone in Fed Square. That would loosen them up a little bit. And the importance of really creating a placemaking-led approach. So the new principles, very important. Design smart, flexible, inclusive. Public spaces, the anchor. Public spaces, small, quirky spaces, Your malls become streets, your malls become laneways, your malls become intimate, they become tribal, themed in different components. So millennials will love peace areas and outdoor areas, all these sort of things, but the public space is the anchor, will drive the retail. And I'm not taking away from retail. I used to be a leasing manager at Chadstone in the day. We created the Fashion Capital brand, if some of you know. And no way you're going to, the power of the right product mix, but you've got to get this other piece right because you'll all be in the red ocean. Get the environmental, the regenerative model. We're working with a shopping centre now that's making energy in their car park, that's growing the food on the roof, that's got all recycled packaging. It's got a closed loop, wet waste recycling. This is the future, folks. This actually, the reason they're doing it, it's saving them money. It's going to reduce their environmental costs by 40%. It's not about being green for green's sake. It's actually doing good is good for business, so the money's back in their pocket. Very simple. And outdoors, the importance of beauty, art, hybrid spaces, best of both worlds, where they're covered, where these amazing works of art also give out mists of water. They've got solar panels of them. The importance of actually cooling spaces when it's 50 degrees Celsius. People want to come out, at 7 o'clock, at 6 o'clock. All these things, we need to create the right environmental outdoor environments, but with beautiful. They're locally distinctive, community services, stories, culture, learning. One of the great things we're starting to see with millennials, they're at the bottom of the hierarchy of Maslow's needs. We got food, we got shelter, and for millennials, we got Wi-Fi. Without Wi-Fi, they will die. Who agrees? If you take Wi-Fi away from millennials, something will happen. It'll be trauma. But importantly, what they also want in our research, they want the social good. They're going to change the game in the next 5 to 10 years. They're going to vote with their feet, and they're going to vote for experiences and authenticity. So be aware of your investments, folks. They will move very quickly with their apps. So get this right. This is one of the places in Perth, Brookfield Place, who some of you have probably been to, that we worked on. It's put Perth back on the map as a city. And this is it again. Oh no, another development. But mixed use is the future. We're working with 6 mixed use developments, about $10 billion worth of projects at the moment. Live, work, play, cultural centre, community centre, library, all these anchors around 700 apartments. Yep. Co-working spaces, a youth centre. Bring it all together because they're just going to stick around, That's the thing. It becomes a 24/7 environment. This is the next paradigm shift. It makes a lot of sense. ISPT, Lend Leases, all of them are moving towards mixed use. It's powerful, but through a placemaking lens. Something extra, surprise, wonder, discovery for little people. Create these little environments that opens the heart for children to play. Remember, if we create a place for children, everyone will come. Everyone agrees? If you make it magical and fun, everyone comes. Surprise and wonder. And inviting. It's one of the places in Canberra, it's the capital of Australia, great developer friend who just put art before the development. He said art will drive this development. It's now become, New Acton, the most successful place in Australia. It was voted one of the top 3 mixed-use developments in the world by the ULI, so Urban Land Institute. Extraordinary developer. He's a philosopher developer. And guess what? He's making a stack of money, These restaurants are packed 7 days a week. Why? Because they become so sticky and loved and authentic and real and curated. He's got 6 curators just walking around, watching every detail. It's like a department store manager from Harrods in a shopping centre, watching everything. It's that sort of investment that will change the game, folks. Creative use of space, 24/7, pop-ups, rooftops, programming, co-working, all these elements start to create the software place. And something I'm very passionate about, because coming from Mauritius, we are totally, we live for the senses. And I think in the last 15, 20 years, we've lost our sense of activating our senses, smell, touch, taste. So bringing theatre of food, but also theatre of life and learning environments. We want to grow. What we'll see in the next decade or so, our shopping centres will become learning spaces. You'll become a better person. You'll do social good. You'll walk out, because most shopping centres take away more in the customer than they come in. Yeah? Imagine going to a shopping centre and feeling a little bit better about yourself. Yeah? And feeling like I've been giving a gift back from this centre. That's a rare space. Cities do that very well, and that's the key. Take risks, quick, cheap, easy little interventions. There's hundreds of these that we're going to talk about in Amman, and that's important. Some Australian examples, very quickly. I've probably only got 5 minutes before I can hear all the tummies, wanting to eat all that wonderful food. A year or so ago, we did this for a developer in Eastland, in Ringwood, in Melbourne, anchored by a central public space, about 500 stores. It's made it a true destination with a library. Now it's the best performing library, but it's not a library. It's also a co-working space. It's an art gallery, and it's anchored by a public piazza that's curated and activated, and a train station. These are the things that we need to look at. And the retail is just booming because it's got 100 works of art, original art in the space that people are Instagramming constantly, yeah? That's the key thing. The importance of, this is one that, that brought me back to shopping centres. I had about 10-year break working in cities, but this was Lend-Lease at GPT at the time. And I think this is now still the highest performing cash cow in their portfolio. Why? Because it's highly curated. They took out the air conditioning out. They put the bluestone that was in the city throughout the mall. So they took the streets of the city into the mall. They created all the finishes that was very Melbourne, wood, all of that. They haven't retrofitted this place for years because it keeps evolving. They've got a piazza. They've got an activated train station. They've got 5 laneways. Yep. There was I think my friend David, who was in the room, managed this before me, before we worked on it, and it used to be Daimaru. But the key element, why it's successful, the managing director told us, basically we brought the city back into the shopping centre, yeah? We brought the city into the shopping centre, and it drives the retail sales. And they targeted millennials, the RMIT students, the Melbourne University students, and that drives the sales. And they give away some of their spaces to art students on the bottom right, to fashion students. They create that sense of dynamism against place-led, placemaking-led, playful and creative. Chadston, the last slide, I cut my teeth at Chadston and I went to a Mall of America for a little stint. But importantly, Chadston was my home base for 5 years, the most successful shopping centre in the Southern Hemisphere. What's happened now at Chadston? Obviously, iconic design by RTKL, no doubt about it. But now they've got a hotel, they're building apartments, they're building small piazzas, they're building pop-up villages on the edges, they're taking their customers on a journey. And my real takeouts, folks, is really to go back to this. We need to embed placemaking in every stage of our development. It's retail plus, development plus. We need to now, we've moved from separation to an integrated model. And that's where life's going anyway. We're becoming whole again. And I think what I really is a takeout from you can do the small wins. If you've got a current centre, bring engage your creatives, your own people, engage your retailers, but take it one step at a time. And my last slide, I encourage you to come to Amman, and Maimuna, as I said, she's almost my mini-me that I've been mentoring for a couple of years. We'll be really holding that placemaking foundation for the Middle East. And this will be the first one. This is actually my first one globally for 2 days as a global thing. So I'm really keen to share all the little micro details around place activation, place leadership, place engagement, place branding, and placemaking. So we'll deep dive together, have fun, eat together, and hopefully, I wish you well. And let's just remember, you are all placemakers. This is something that's all in our hearts, and we've been doing it for thousands of years. In this region, in the Middle East, we're some of the original placemakers of bringing people together. So thank you for having me here, and all the best.
fascinating insights. I remember actually one mall developer here in Dubai, I was going to say that David might have worked for, but David worked for most of them, said when they were creating it, they didn't use the term placemaking, but the destination they used as a benchmark was in Australia, and it was Darling Harbour in Sydney, the way that they had created a place there, and they were trying to do the same, and they probably succeeded. Anyway, with that, my final duty as your Master of Ceremonies, which has been a pleasure. I'm back tonight for the awards, but for the daytime conference, is to reintroduce David McAdam, who's going to say a quick thank you and goodbye. David, join us on stage.
Thanks, Richard. I appreciate all of your work. It's great to have you back on the stage with us. Just a quick one. Thank you. A quick one for everyone. If there's anyone who's an ice cream fan, and I know I am an ice cream fan, but there's free ice cream available, just so you all know, after lunch if you want free ice cream, or before lunch, or for your lunch ice cream. It's available. It's in the Cells display suite, and I've tried it. There's about 7 flavors, and they're all great. So if you're interested, there's that. But most importantly, I wanted to say thank you all for making this such a great conference so far. We're all looking forward to this evening. I think it'll be a fabulous evening. It's completely sold out, 565 seats again this year. So we truly appreciate your support. It'll be a great evening. Richard is going to be back with us, so thanks for that, Richard. And at 3 o'clock, if there's any of our board members here, we are having our board meeting for today at 3 o'clock, and it'll be just in the room beside here, and we'll catch you all then. Anyway, I wanted to say thank you all again for your great support, and thanks for making this such a great conference. And Richard, back to you. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks very much indeed. All that it remains for me to do is to say thank you very much indeed for your enthusiasm and contributions this morning. Lunch, if you're not going to go for the ice cream option and want a more conventional approach to nutrition, same place as yesterday, the Cara restaurant, which is on I think it's the 3rd floor they're calling. Thanks very much indeed, and see you all this evening.